There's a moment, quiet and cruel, when you realize he never saw your love as something sacred. Not in the way you held your breath every time his name appeared on your screen, not in the way you softened your world to make space for him, not in the way your eyes memorized the details of his soul. And the worst part, he didn't even flinch when he broke you. He walked away calm, cold, collected, like your pain was background noise, like your heart cracking open was just another Tuesday for him. That's where we begin, because this isn't just about heartbreak, it's about war. A silent, psychological war between your heart and your worth, between the woman who gave too much and the woman you're about to become. So let's be clear from the start. When he breaks your heart, you don't cry on the floor for days waiting for his text. You don't spiral into self-blame or drown in what-ifs. You rise, not just to move on, but to rise so fiercely, so powerfully, that his ego fractures under the weight of your glow-up. You see, heartbreak is not the end of you. It's the beginning of a deeper, more dangerous version of you, the kind of woman who doesn't just recover, she reinvents. Let's talk about her. She is forged in betrayal, tempered by silence, and awakened by pain. She doesn't chase closure because she is the closure. She doesn't need validation because her existence is its own revolution. And when she looks back at the man who hurt her, it's not with longing. It's with a smile that says, "You lost the best thing that ever happened to you." Now that version of you, she's waiting. But she's buried under the lies you believed, the apologies you never got, the nights you blamed yourself, and the broken promises you stitched into bedtime prayers. This is your moment to excavate her, to pull her out of the rubble and resurrect the power you forgot you had. Because make no mistake, when he broke your heart, he assumed you'd stay broken. But not today, not this time. Let's begin with truth, the unfiltered, soul-burning kind. He didn't leave because you weren't enough. He left because you were more than he could handle. Men don't destroy women, they don't fear. And he feared you, the way you loved with your whole chest, the way you saw through his excuses, the way your presence demanded more than surface-level affection. And so he tried to diminish you, by ignoring your needs, by withholding affection, by making you doubt the very instincts that tried to warn you. He didn't want a queen. He wanted a compliant servant dressed like a lover. But queens don't kneel unless they choose to. Let me tell you something ancient and brutal. Ego is a man's armor, and when he plays games, disappears, lies, cheats, it's not just his immaturity, it's his ego flexing in the mirror, thinking he has power over how you see yourself. But when you refuse to shatter, when you rise in silence, when you don't beg or explain, you do more than move on. You fracture the very illusion of power he wrapped himself in. Let me take you back in time, to Cleopatra, the last queen of Egypt. A woman who was used, misunderstood, villainized, yet never erased. Men tried to conquer her lands, her love, her spirit, but she died on her own terms. Her story still echoes because even in heartbreak, she chose power, she chose legacy, she chose the version of herself that could not be rewritten by the hands that tried to own her. You are no different. You are the architect of your own rebirth. But first, you have to stop trying to resuscitate what was never real. That man, the one who made you feel small after loving him so big, he doesn't deserve your grief. He deserves your indifference. He deserves the silence that echoes louder than screams. He deserves to see you walk into a room one day, radiating so hard that he has to look away. But this isn't about revenge. It's about restoration. And restoration starts with remembering the woman you were before he convinced you that love had to hurt, before he made you shrink to be digestible, before you taught yourself to love pain as proof of passion. No. Love is not a cage. It is not confusion. It is not chaos masquerading as chemistry. Real love is calm. Real love sees you. Real love doesn't leave you in emotional limbo and call it just going through something. That's not depth. That's manipulation. Let's call things by their real names. When he ghosted you, it wasn't confusion. It was cowardice. When he lied, it wasn't protecting your feelings. It was protecting his game. When he said you're too much, what he meant was, I'm not enough. So what do you do now? You break his ego, not by stooping to his level, not by fighting for attention, but by becoming so whole, so self-contained, so dangerously luminous that he can't recognize the woman he once thought he could play with. You read books, you build empires, you hit the gym, not to be desirable, but to feel powerful. You learn how to make yourself laugh again, how to sit in silence without spiraling, how to light candles not for romance, but for ritual. You become your own sanctuary, and every time he scrolls past your name, let him feel it. Let him feel what it's like to lose a woman who carried galaxies in her chest. Let him wonder why you haven't reached out. Let his ego slowly decay under the weight of your silence, because silence is the sound of power reclaiming itself. Now listen, this isn't about bitterness. Bitterness is what happens when pain has nowhere to go. But you're not bitter, you're wise now. You're awake. You're no longer a woman waiting to be chosen. You choose yourself, and the thing about choosing yourself, it's louder than any "I love you" that turned out to be a lie. It's louder than any apology that never came. It's louder than every unanswered text and every gaslighting phrase that tried to erase your truth. When you choose yourself, you stop negotiating your worth. You stop shrinking for approval. You stop tolerating emotional crumbs from someone who feasted on your loyalty. You become the storm he thought you'd never survive. And here's the kicker, you don't have to say a word. He'll feel it, in his bones, in his dreams, in the hollow silence of his own ego, echoing back at him, with no one left to applaud. He broke your heart. Break his ego, not with drama, with transformation. And when he finally realizes what he lost, when he circles back with "Hey stranger," or "I've been thinking about you," don't rage, don't respond, just smile to yourself, because that's the moment you'll know, you won, not by revenge, not by rebound, but by rising. And queens, they never crawl back, they build new kingdoms, and in that kingdom, your throne is made of lessons learned, your crown forged from tears you survived, and your future, a place he can never access again. Let the pain be the fire, let your silence be the sword, and let your transformation be the story he'll never stop regretting, because this is your becoming, and it's only just begun. There's something almost divine about the silence that comes after heartbreak, the eerie stillness that fills the air after he's gone. It doesn't scream, it doesn't plead, it just is. And in that stillness, there's an ancient kind of power waiting for you. Power that comes from realizing that you were never destroyed, only paused. Never erased, only redrawn. You see, heartbreak has a way of turning even the strongest women into archaeologists, digging through the ruins of a relationship, searching for the moment everything began to crack. Was it that text he didn't reply to for days, the way he changed his tone when you brought up your needs, the sudden shift in his eyes when you asked if he was still all in? But the truth, it doesn't lie in a single moment. It lies in a pattern of disregard, of taking you for granted, of watching you pour yourself into the relationship while he took and took, convinced you'd never stop giving. He didn't expect you to change. He didn't expect you to wake up. And certainly not like this, with your spine straight, your voice steady, and your soul alight with the fire of self-worth. That fire, it burns quietly at first, in the mornings when you don't check your phone for his name. In the evenings when you light candles just for you, not to impress, not to seduce, but to remind yourself that you deserve beauty in your solitude. It burns when you smile at strangers, when you order your favorite drink and enjoy the taste instead of wondering if he'd approve. It burns when you sit in front of your mirror and look into your own eyes, not to fix your makeup, but to remember the power behind them. You are no longer the woman waiting to be seen. You are the woman who sees herself. And let me tell you something powerful. Men feel that shift. They might not admit it. They might not say a word, but they feel it in their gut, an ancient evolutionary pang that tells them they lost something rare, something real, something they thought they could always come back to. But they can't, because this time, you're not standing in the same place, holding the same hope. You've moved. Not just physically, but spiritually. You've evolved from the girl who used to wonder what was wrong with her, to the woman who knows there was never anything wrong. She was just loving someone who couldn't meet her in her depth. A woman who stopped chasing love and started attracting it, authentic, reciprocal, untamed love. And the man who hurt you, he expected you to collapse, to post cryptic quotes, to beg, to come crawling back when loneliness sank its claws in your chest. But loneliness didn't break you. It introduced you to yourself, because here's the beautiful irony, the same heartbreak that tried to dismantle you also unveiled you. The same man who shattered your illusion also shattered your limits. And now you walk with a new kind of energy, not the loud, performative kind, the sacred kind, the kind of energy that says, I know who I am now. And when a woman knows who she is, truly, deeply, undeniably, she becomes untouchable. Not because she's hardened, but because she's healed. And healing isn't soft, it's not pretty. Healing is feral, it's bloody, it's nights of sobbing into your pillow until your soul is hoarse. It's deleting the messages you wrote, but never sent. It's unfollowing, blocking, reclaiming. Healing is sacred rage, the kind that tells you, never again will I tolerate breadcrumbs, never again will I mistake anxiety for love, never again will I call inconsistency complicated instead of unavailable, because now you know better. Now you know that love isn't supposed to feel like being starved and occasionally fed. It's supposed to feel like being seen in your chaos and still being chosen. Let me ask you something. Have you ever seen a woman walk into a room and the entire room shifts, not because she's loud, not because she's dressed a certain way, but because her presence demands attention? That's not something you can fake. That's what happens when a woman has buried her old self and risen from the ashes. And that's what breaks a man's ego. Not revenge, not sleeping with someone else, not pretending to be unbothered. It's your becoming. It's you choosing silence over pettiness. It's you walking with so much grace that his memory of you becomes a mirror to everything he'll never touch again. Let's talk about that mirror. The mirror that reflects his games, his lies, his cowardice. The one he's forced to look into when you don't reach out, when you don't flinch, when you don't ask, why? That mirror destroys him more than any argument could. Because deep down, even if he won't admit it, he knows he lost a woman who would have gone to war for him. And he lost her, not because she stopped loving, but because she started choosing herself, over and over and over again. Do you know how rare that is? A woman who loves deeply, but refuses to lose herself in the process. That's the kind of woman who changes the narrative, who stops repeating generational patterns, who teaches her daughters that love does not require sacrifice of self, who teaches her sons that real men don't play games, they rise to the occasion or step aside. And when you become that woman, you don't just heal yourself, you heal your lineage. You break curses, you redefine what love looks like for the next woman who sees your strength and thinks, maybe I can leave too. So yes, he broke your heart, but your response, your rebirth, that's not just personal, it's revolutionary. Because every woman who watches you rise learns that survival isn't the end goal, sovereignty is. And that's why your silence breaks his ego more than screaming ever could. It's the quiet truth that his power over you is gone, forever. Let him sit in that silence. Let him feel it like a storm, because the storm isn't outside of you anymore, it's you. And now, you are the storm that clears your own path. There's a moment in every woman's journey when she no longer seeks revenge, only resurrection. She no longer counts the days since he left or replays the last words he said. She doesn't reread the messages. She doesn't try to decode the silences. She lets it all burn, because what she's building now cannot be touched by the man who broke her. And that is the moment his ego begins to starve. You see, men like that, they feed off of your attachment, off the idea that no matter what they do, you'll be there, that you'll always keep the light on, that you'll never stop hoping they'll change. But when you stop waiting, when you stop needing him to care, he loses the only power he ever had. Let me tell you something real. The opposite of love is not hate, it's detachment. And when a woman detaches after loving deeply, she becomes unshakable. That kind of energy doesn't beg, it doesn't chase, it doesn't perform pain for an audience, it simply moves on, quietly, elegantly, unapologetically. And the silence? That's the knife. Not because it's meant to wound, but because it exposes the truth. He never had you, not really. He had access, he had the privilege, but he never held your soul the way he thought he did. And once you realize that, once you really see it, you reclaim your power so fiercely that it terrifies anyone who mistook your softness for weakness. Let me ask you, how many nights did you cry yourself to sleep and still wake up loving him? How many times did you forgive things that made you bleed internally? How many times did you doubt your own intuition because he told you that you were too sensitive, overthinking? That wasn't love, that was conditioning. You were conditioned to believe that love looks like proving your worth over and over to someone who couldn't even look you in the eye when they hurt you. You were conditioned to normalize confusion, to excuse emotional absence, to romanticize inconsistency. But now the fog is gone. Now you're seeing clearly, and the truth is harsh at first, but eventually it sets you free. The truth is, he never intended to meet you at your depth. He only visited it when it benefited him. He wanted your loyalty, but not your complexity. He wanted the comfort of your body, but not the challenge of your boundaries. He loved how you loved him, but he didn't love you. And that realization, that's not your ruin, it's your rebirth. You stop trying to fix him. You stop trying to decode his patterns. You stop writing paragraphs he'll never understand. And in that moment, you become the version of yourself he was never worthy of. Let's go deeper. Do you know the story of Frida Kahlo? Frida loved fiercely, most notably, Diego Rivera. She endured betrayal, heartbreak, emotional torment. But even through that devastation, she didn't lose herself. She created. Her pain became paintings. Her grief became symbols. Her heartbreak became history. Frida didn't just survive, she transmuted. That's what women like you do. You take the shattered pieces and you build cathedrals from them. You don't waste pain, you turn it into poetry, into movement, into legacy. And legacy, my love, lasts longer than regret. Let me tell you something raw. One day he'll remember you, not as the girl who begged for his time, but as the woman who walked away with grace. One day he'll hear your name in a song, or smell a familiar perfume in the air, and it'll sting. Not because of what you did, but because of what he could have had. But here's the thing, by then it won't matter, because your life will be full, your laughter will be real, your joy will be yours, not borrowed, not dependent on how someone else feels about you. You will have found love in places he never thought to look, in your friends, your passions, your purpose, your own reflection, and that glow, that effortless, unbothered radiance, that's what bruises his ego more than anything else. He thought you'd always be reachable, but now you're not just gone, you're unavailable, emotionally, spiritually, energetically. That is the most powerful thing a woman can become, unreachable to the ones who never deserved her. Let's be honest here. Most men don't regret losing you right away. At first they feel relief, they feel freedom, they convince themselves they're better off, until they see you living, until they see you thriving without them, until they realize that no one else laughs at their jokes the way you did. No one else looks at them like they matter the way you did. No one else forgives them as gently, or stays as long, or listens as deeply. And that's when the regret kicks in, not for losing you, but for realizing you've upgraded from him, within yourself. And by then it's too late, because you're not the same woman anymore. You don't answer the same way. You don't flinch at the same words. You don't need the same things. You don't even speak the same emotional language anymore. He speaks chaos, you speak peace. And when peace becomes your mother tongue, you never go back to noise. Understand this. You're not healing just for him to come back. You're healing so that you never accept that version of love again. You're healing so that the next time someone says I love you, you don't hear a promise, You observe the consistency. You're healing so that your heart doesn't confuse anxiety for affection. And when that healing is complete, oh, the power you'll hold. The kind of power that doesn't need to prove a thing. The kind that glows in the dark. The kind that makes men nervous. Not because you're intimidating, but because you're immune to manipulation. You see, when he broke your heart, he underestimated the kind of woman you are. He thought you'd unravel. He thought you'd beg. He thought you'd never stop orbiting around him. But what he didn't know was that you were the sun, and he, just a temporary planet, passing through your light. You don't chase what revolves, you shine. And when your light becomes unapologetic, when your soul becomes full again, when your standards rise higher than his reach, that's when the real heartbreak begins, for him. Because he didn't just lose a lover, he lost a force. He lost a woman who could have changed his life, but instead changed hers. Time has a way of revealing what ego tries to hide. And for the man who once held your heart like it was replaceable, time becomes a mirror he cannot escape. Because eventually the silence you gave him becomes deafening. At first, he pretends not to notice. He scrolls past your stories, pretending they don't affect him. But they do. Every time he sees you smiling, surrounded by people who celebrate your light, it chips away at the illusion he built, that you needed him to be whole. And each time he sees you bloom without his validation, his ego withers. Because here's what he never understood. Your love was never weak. It was fierce. It was raw. It was a love that could have built empires if he had the courage to match it. But he didn't. He stood at the gates of something sacred and turned around, afraid of the responsibility that comes with being chosen by a woman like you. A woman whose soul does not come with instructions, because it was never meant to be handled, only honored. But let's talk about you now, not the you that cried in the shower at 2 a.m. Not the you that reread old texts, trying to decode a man who didn't even know how to spell reciprocity. I'm talking about this you. The version that was forged in fire. The version who now walks into rooms with a quiet power that doesn't scream but commands. You didn't get here overnight. You got here by dying 1,000 emotional deaths, by swallowing the pain and transmuting it into power, by sitting with your own shadow long enough to realize that the love you were trying to squeeze out of him, you always had inside you. He didn't break your heart. He exposed its fractures, fractures that were never caused by him alone. They were formed by every moment you believed you had to earn love. Every childhood scar that whispered, you must be perfect to be chosen. Every past relationship that taught you to silence your needs, to shrink yourself for the comfort of others. But not anymore. You're done shrinking, done apologizing, done folding yourself into origami to fit into someone else's lack of depth. You were never too much, they were just never enough. And now that you see that, everything changes. You begin to carry yourself differently, not with arrogance, but with awareness. The awareness that you are a woman of worth, a woman who doesn't beg for closure because she is the closure, a woman who doesn't seek revenge because her evolution is revenge enough. A woman who doesn't rush to replace him because she understands that healing is not a race, but a rite of passage. And that rite, it's brutal. It demands isolation. It demands that you unlearn every lie you were taught about love. That love is pain, that love is sacrifice, that love means tolerating what makes you ache. No, real love is not war. It is not confusion. It is not built on the back of broken promises and conditional affection. Real love is clarity. Real love is consistency. Real love chooses you daily, without the games, without the ego, and anything less is starvation dressed as romance. Let me remind you of something you forgot while loving him. You are the prize. Not in a superficial you're hot and he missed out kind of way, but in the deepest, most sacred sense. You are the kind of woman who listens with her whole heart, who loves without restraint, who remembers the little things, who holds space when others fall apart, who believes in people before they believe in themselves. And that is rare. That is not easily found or casually replaced. That is once in a lifetime energy. And he lost it. because he couldn't meet you where you were. He couldn't offer the depth, the safety, the emotional maturity you were yearning for. So don't you dare grieve someone who never had the capacity to hold your magic. Don't you dare question your worth because someone too shallow couldn't swim in your depth. Instead, thank him. Yes, thank him. Not because he treated you well, not because he earned it, but because his absence gave you back yourself. And you're not just surviving without him, you're flourishing, you're sleeping better, smiling wider, dreaming bolder. You're attracting people who see you, really see you, not as a conquest, not as an ego boost, but as a whole, breathing, miraculous woman. You've stopped trying to convince anyone of your value. You've stopped asking small minds to understand your big heart. You've stopped negotiating with people who never brought anything to the table but appetite. And now you are unapologetically unavailable to anything that doesn't feed your soul. Because once a woman tastes peace, real peace, chaos will never tempt her again. Let me leave you with this. One day, maybe weeks or months from now, he will reach out. Maybe it'll be a text at midnight, a hey stranger message, a weak attempt to slither back into your life, under the guise of friendship, curiosity, or nostalgia. Don't fall for it, because it's not love. It's his ego, hungry, desperate, and terrified of your indifference. And your greatest power is that you no longer need to respond. Not with words, not with anger, not with anything. Because you've already said everything you needed to say by choosing yourself. There comes a moment when the healing is so complete, so sacred, so whole, that even your memory of him changes. Not because you forget, but because you outgrow the version of you who once craved his love. She's no longer here. She served her purpose. She fought through the dark nights, and she made way for a new woman to rise. The woman who doesn't just survive pain, she reconstructs herself from it. That woman is you, and her presence is the loudest silence a man like him will ever hear. You don't need revenge. You don't need closure. You don't need to explain why you left. Because when a woman begins to love herself the way she once loved someone who couldn't love her back, there is no force more unstoppable. You are that force now. And he is simply a chapter in a book he never deserved to be the author of. The funny thing is, when he broke your heart, he thought it would keep you small. He thought it would define you, that you'd wear that wound like a scarlet letter, always hoping for a return, always romanticizing what was broken. But instead you turned that heartbreak into a doorway, a portal, and when you stepped through it, you didn't just walk away from him. You walked into a version of yourself he never got to meet. Let's talk about her. The woman who now sets boundaries not out of fear but out of self-respect. The woman who trusts her intuition so deeply that she no longer second-guesses what her spirit screams. The woman who has learned that love is not something you earn through pain or patience. It's something you receive freely when you know you deserve it. The woman who no longer chases clarity from confused men. She is fire. She is freedom. She is divine. And she doesn't break hearts. She breaks patterns. That's the difference. You're no longer a woman trying to make someone love you. You're a woman too busy loving herself to notice who isn't. Because now the life you're building is rooted in truth, in alignment, in wholeness. You wake up with peace, not panic. You sleep without wondering if you're enough. You laugh without hesitation. You dream without limits. And that is what destroys his ego. Not because you meant to, not because you played games, but because the part of you he took for granted. She's gone, and she's never coming back. Let him sit in the echoes of what he lost. Let him scroll through your life in silence, haunted by the smile he used to be the reason for. Let him watch you rise, not as an act of revenge, but as an act of rebirth. You don't owe him pain. You don't owe him guilt. You don't even owe him acknowledgement, because your growth speaks for itself. There's a reason the phoenix is never seen mourning the ashes. She doesn't look back. She doesn't gather what burned. She doesn't beg the fire to explain itself. She flies, and so do you. Now I want you to close your eyes for a moment. Think about the woman you were when he first came into your life. Think about her dreams, her hopes, her blind spots, her purity, her fears, and now think about who you are today. Every tear, every breakdown, every sleepless night, it was alchemized, turned into wisdom, into discernment, into unshakable self-worth. The woman you've become, she didn't arrive easily. She was sculpted in the storm, sharpened by betrayal, strengthened by solitude. She knows now love doesn't hurt, love doesn't confuse, love doesn't manipulate, and love sure as hell doesn't leave you doubting your own value. She knows now any man who truly deserves her will never put her in a position to question whether or not she is enough. And when he finally realizes what he had, what he lost, what he'll never get again, let him drown in the silence that once held your laughter. Let him sit with the ghost of your presence. Because you're not a lesson, you're a woman. You're not his karma, you're your own miracle. And you no longer belong in places that starve your soul. Let this be your vow. You will never again chase someone who makes love conditional. You will never again settle for potential, dressed as partnership. You will never again betray yourself, just to keep someone else comfortable. From this moment forward, you walk in your fullness, you speak your truth, you honor your standards, and if someone cannot rise to meet them, you walk away not bitter, not broken, but brilliant. You don't need closure, you are the closure. You don't need revenge, you are the revenge, peaceful, powerful, glowing from within. And when he broke your heart, he did not win. He simply awakened the woman who would never let anyone break her that way again. Now go be her, and never look back. If this message spoke to your soul, if you felt seen, heard, or healed even a little, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that like button to let others know they're not alone. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, someone who's still picking up the pieces, still searching for their worth. And drop a comment below. Tell us your story. Tell us what part hit you the hardest. This is more than just a video. This is a movement of healing, power, and self-respect. Let's grow together.